So the year was 1975. I was 5 years old, and it was a big day. You see, it was my father's birthday. My dad was my hero. He was a big man. I'm talking huge. 5'7", 150 pounds. But he was my dad, my hero. Probably a little too young to be a dad, to tell the truth. I wanted to do something different this year. In the past, Mom had always bought a gift, and then she wrote my name on a card. We gave it to Dad. This year, I wanted to be all done on my own. So I had a couple of problems. One, I was not allowed to cross the street. So if I was going to go to Montgomery Ward's, they were going to have to move it next door, and that wasn't happening. So I ran out to the backyard, and right in front of me stood these 6 huge apple trees. Dad had planted them about 2 years before. And when I say huge, I'm talking 4, 5 feet tall. And on these apple trees were these small apples, a little bit bigger than a cherry. And some of them were spread out on the ground with little critters living in them. And I thought, perfect. Everything there is edible. Everything's edible when you're 5 years old. So I get my red wagon and I load it up with all these apples, the ones I could reach off the lower rim, along with some of the ones on the ground. And I roll them up to the house, and I run inside into my dad's closet to look for something to put them in. And there in the corner of his closet is kind of a tattered box. And I remember the box. It was a box his friend Al had given him. And in it was something Mom called a white elephant, whatever that meant. But it was definitely a guy gift because there was no wrapping and there was like a string that was supposed to serve as a bow. So I grabbed this box and I look at it, and in it is a card, not only a card, but a birthday card. Perfect. So I go to the living room and I fill it up with all the apples, take it, put it in the kitchen at the table. Dad's on his way home. He's going to be there soon. And I grab that card, and on the envelope, I cross out Hank, and I put Dad. And on the inside of the card, instead of from Al, it was from me. And then I wrote a message inside the card that told my dad how much I loved him and thought how cool he was. So as I waited anxiously for him to come home, he enters the back door and comes to the kitchen table. Mom had dinner as usual, and we were ready to sit down. He saw the gift, he saw the card. Excitement filled his face. He opened that gift, and this huge smile came on his face. Laughter, brightness of his face just from the joy. Then he opened that card, and he read the message inside. And he got that look in his eyes, that red eye look like when he's mowing the yard, that told me that he really liked what I had done. And he said, "This is the best gift ever." It wasn't until years later that I realized and really noticed what my dad was laughing about that day. My father, I had given him everything that already belonged to him. He already owned those things. But the one thing that really touched his heart that day is I gave him a little piece of my heart. That's the one thing that didn't belong to him. And I know that touched him more than anything, because it definitely wasn't the apples.